you done?
That's about 75, yeah. Dean Fletcher,
Yes.
you are here by popular demand.
Oh,
George McCoy and Tom Cry and several others that I won't mention. How do you know George?
Oh, my dad built a house on North Lee Highway down from George's house in probably 1952. And Dr. McCoy, you know where Dr. McCoy, George still lives there, right? That was his dad's house.
What was your dad's name?
Charlie Fletcher.
Did he used to go to breakfast with George?
No. But anyway, he built a house down from George, and then I went to, Dr. McCoy used to make house calls. He's one of the last doctors made house calls, and he'd come to our house down the road, North Lee Highway. And then we went to school together, me and George too. We went to high school together.
Like, were y'all in scouts together? Or?
No, not that I remember.
You just knew him?
Yeah.
What was George like?
Oh, George is, he's a smart guy.
Was he smart? I know he's smart now. Was he smart? Was it obvious he was smart?
Yeah.
No question.
And he's got about the driest sense of humor, probably, right? You know
Yeah,
him.
I know him. He's a good friend of mine.
And but
George is even killed.
even killed, and he's doesn't put on any airs,
None.
and he'd help you any way he could.
That's one of his problems. He probably helps more than he should. And how about Tom?
Tom, I met in 1993 when I got out of the Army and moved back to Cleveland, and George introduced me to him. I didn't have a job, and Tom was an appraiser, still is, I guess.
Yeah.
And he hired me as an apprentice appraiser because it was a boom time, 1993.
Yeah.
Everybody was refinancing and buying houses and stuff. Interest rates were good, I guess, and so he would. I'd helped him do appraisals for about a year.
Did you say when you got out of the Army?
Yeah, 1993, July.
What was you in the Army? What was your job in the Army?
I was a transportation officer.
Was that your whole career? Did you go right out of high school to that?
No. I went to college at UT Knoxville, and then I went in the Army, and then I was enlisted for about 6 years, and then I went to officer candidate school at Fort Benning, Georgia, and they branched me as a transportation officer, and that's what I did the rest of my Army career.
And now you live in Georgia.
Yeah, I live, my mailing address is White, Georgia. I live about 5 miles, 6 miles from there's just a post office in White, Georgia.
I got a speeding ticket coming through there one night.
You told me that. It must have been a highway patrolman, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I just
I don't
remember
think
I
they
was,
got a police.
I was probably 18 or 19. I know I had to go and pay it that night.
Oh, wow. How much was it?
It was like $100, $106 or something. It was.
It's 45. What were you doing?
I probably wasn't even speeding.
They were making revenue or something. But
Now
so it's on 411, yeah.
Yeah, 411. Well, I was just about 18 or 19, and I was in Marietta, Georgia, and I was coming back to Cleveland, and I took a sign that said Cleveland. And believe it or not, that took me to Cleveland, Georgia.
Wow.
And I was too dumb
way
to know.
over in the mountains.
And that's the way I came home. And I thought I was going to Cleveland, Tennessee, and that's how I got off the interstate and went through White County, Georgia.
So what year was that?
It was probably 86, 87,
Because that used to be the only way you would. That's
Yeah.
why you went to Atlanta, right before
Yeah.
they built the interstate.
Yeah, no, the interstate was there. I just saw the wrong sign. It said to Cleveland.
Gosh, Cleveland, Georgia's way over.
You know, when there's another town by the similar name, they should say to Cleveland, Georgia, instead of Cleveland.
I don't even know how you get to Cleveland, Georgia, off 411 there.
Well, it's a long ways.
Yeah, gotta be.
Now, you're one of your claim to fames is you're a hiker.
I had a period of doing a good bit of backpacking, yeah, and from about when I was 62 to 66, I did a good bit of backpacking, yeah.
And do you distinguish between hiking and backpacking?
Yeah, you can go on a day hike or, with a small pack, but backpacking you carry for overnight, and it's not, so there is a little bit of difference, yeah, but it's all walking, so.
When you backpack, is this like your right arm?
Yeah, that's everything you need right there, yeah. That's your home, your bed, your
If you were in the
kitchen.
military, that'd be like your rifle. You protect it.
Yeah, I guess. I never felt any threat of anybody stealing it too much. It's always with me, if that's what you mean, yeah.
Is that the one that you?
Yeah, I used this pack on several backpacking trips between 62 and 66. And this is the one, I hiked the Appalachian Trail with this pack here. And,
How far did you go on it?
The whole thing.
You did the whole thing?
Yeah. People would ask me when I was hiking, they say, how far are you going? I tell them, try and go all the way. So, but yeah, from Springer Mountain, Georgia to Mount Katahdin in Maine. Yep.
So the Appalachian Trail, right here, Appalachian Trail starts where?
Springer Mountain, which is up above LJ. You know where LJ, Georgia is? And ends in Mount Katahdin, Maine.
Did you
14 states.
Did you park your car or what? Or did
No, my wife dropped me off on a Saturday, March 15th, and my son was with her too. But
describe when you started walking and you went.
Yeah, that was a strange experience to look back to know, because I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, but it was a long process, a long trip, long journey.
To get there, or
No,
when
I was heading on a long journey, and it really didn't dawn on me.
What was the point?
The point of doing it?
Yeah.
Oh, I just, it's something I wanted to do, something I wanted to accomplish, something I grew to enjoy.
Had you been a hiker or backpacker?
Yeah, I'd hiked, day hiked, and overnighted a few times, but not a lot, no. And I didn't really even, people always asked you, what'd you do physically to train and work out or anything. I never even did anything special to train or work out.
Did you study on what to take?
Yeah, that was a process, yeah. I kind of the ideas first came to me, started germinating in my mind in late 90s, and I hiked in 2014, which I should preface all this. It's been 7 or 8 years since I finished my hike.
So you're talking in 2014 is when you went on this trip?
Yeah, is when I through hiked in March 15th to August 29th, 2014.
All right, so March the 19th.
15th.
March the 15th.
I stepped off Springer Mountain. There's a plaque there.
And you waved?
Waved goodbye to my wife, and turned around and looked, and then took off. And
now, did you have you see these diaries of people that walked it? Did you keep a diary?
yeah, I kept an online journal. Yeah.
Well, online, did you have cell service, or you just did it like offline, typed in?
Yeah, I didn't have cell service all the time, and So at night, at the end before I went to sleep, it was generally at the end of the day, I'd type some in my notes on my phone.
Yeah.
And then when I did get cell phone service, I could copy my notes and paste them into. It's a trail journal site.
What about a charger for the phone?
I've got that here too. I could show you that. I used.
2014. That was like yesterday in the big scheme
Yeah,
of
but
things.
I was starting to tell you, it's kind of faded in my memory from me. So, if I had talked to you about this year after I finished, I'd have talked to you
when you
a lot
start
more vividly about my hike, and I'd talked so much you probably got up and left the room. But now it's been almost 8 years. But I use this to charge my phone. It's like a little capacitor, and it holds a charge. And it's got a USB port, so you could charge your phone maybe 3 or 4 times.
What charge is that?
When you get to town, you
Okay.
plug it in.
So that holds a charge. That holds a massive
Holds a
charge.
Yeah. So I would use this to charge my phone, but I kept it on airplane mode most of the time to save, and then maybe get to the top of a mountain and pop it on, see if I could.
Did you know your route?
Yeah, the Appalachian Trail is well blazed. It has white blazes on it, white markings on trees, rocks, whatever. So it'd take an effort to really get lost, although some people do. But if you're not paying attention, you can lose track. Because there's other trails go off and on.
The first day, did you say, "What am I doing?" Or was it a few days in, or was there ever a point where you said, this is far enough?
No, not really. Because when I started, I knew I was going to. I knew what I was doing. I was going to try to walk to Maine, but the thought to quit never occurred to me. It never really did occur to me.
So how many nights did you stay, like 3 nights before you got to town, or?
Yeah, the first day I hiked, it was a pretty decent day in March, middle of March, pretty good weather. And it was late in the day, my wife dropped me off. I walked 8 miles to a shelter and then camped out.
And you knew you were going to stay at that shelter?
Yeah, that's probably the only planning I did. I wanted to make that shelter. After that, I didn't do a lot of planning.
So that the
Some
shelter.
people start out with a big long plan of where they're going to go. Yeah, but I didn't want to do that.
The shelter, is that like just a block building with a tin roof and a chain link fence on the front?
No, they're generally wooden. They're 3-sided, and they have a wooden platform to sleep on. But the front side be open, generally speaking. Although, as you go along in different states, there's some really nice shelters. They're enclosed, and they have lofts in them.
Did you have, or the shelters, or they have? I went and did the Appalachian Trail like 3 nights or 4 nights.
Yeah.
And there was, and I think it was like maybe Klingman's Dome, something like that. Mm-hmm. It was about 4 nights, and the shelters. You might there may be 3 or 4 other people there.
Yeah.
And you're all sleeping on these makeshift bunks. Like a wire.
Yeah, some of them have bunks in them. I mean, generally, they're just a flat platform.
Yeah.
Really. But I think the Smokies, they do put screener wire over the front because of the wild boar and maybe the bear.
Did you see any bear on the?
Yeah, particularly in Virginia and New Jersey. But I didn't I didn't sleep in many shelters. I only slept in maybe 5 shelters my entire trip. Because every time I did, I regretted it.
How come?
Well, like you say, there's people sleeping side by side, and invariably there was a snorer, or I just didn't sleep a wink usually.
So you didn't try to get to the next shelter, it was just...
Sometimes, because usually at a shelter there's a water source. Generally, that's why they put a shelter there. And then there's a privy at most shelters on the Appalachian Trail. They have an outhouse. Mm-hmm. So it's a good place to be. But no, I did do a lot of, if I was caught in between, it was in the day, I just find a good place to tent.
Would you start early, like like 5 o'clock.
Daylight.
Start out at daylight, and then when did you try to make camp? Like, because you'd have to do it way before it started getting dark, right?
Well, not really, but it just depends on how it felt and how long I wanted to go. And because you have to make a lot of miles. It's 2,100. The year I did it, 2,185.3 miles.
Dang.
So
So that's like going to Nashville. Nashville's what, 160 miles? Something like that, 150 miles?
probably, yeah.
So 150 miles. So going the Appalachian Trail would be like walking to Nashville.
Multiple times. It's 2,185.3 miles a year I did it. 2,000.
15 times.
Yeah, maybe if the math comes out.
But that would be
Except it'd probably be a little harder.
a lot harder, yeah.
In the mountains, and you're going a lot of. An interesting statistic about the Appalachian Trail is where they came up with this, I don't know, but if you do the Appalachian Trail, somebody estimated that it's 5 million steps, and it's you ascend and descend the equivalent of walking up and down Mount Everest 16 times. For the elevation gain and drop is roughly 450,000 feet.
golly.
Oh, so there's a lot up and down. I guess there's no flat, hardly much flat on the Appalachian Trail. I don't remember a whole lot of flat.
And how long were you out there?
Until, well, I finished on August 29th. So 168 days by journey west, but I had days off. I waited 3 days at the end for my wife, speaking of my wife in the car. She flew to Portland, Maine and rented a car to come get me at the end. So
Did you?
I waited 3 days for her to get there, so I wasn't even hiking. So I had 3 days of downtime then, and then I had other days too. When I got into, if I were to give anybody a piece of advice if they're going to hike the Appalachian Trail, through hike it. It's through hiking. I don't know. Through hiking is defined by the Appalachian Trail Conservancy as walking the entire length of the trail within a calendar year. Now you can do it any direction. You can skip around, but it's walking the entire length of the trail within a calendar year. So if I were to give anybody any piece of advice about hiking it, is just go slow in the beginning, which I did. First 30 days I didn't make a whole lot of miles. But after that, I tried to do about 100 miles a week and then go to town and get to a town.
Like on weekends?
Yeah, it's kind of like a work week almost, you know. Mm-hmm. But it didn't always work out like that. The towns were spaced exactly like that. But you need to get 3 or 4 days because you can only carry so much food. It gets pretty heavy.
Carrying a week's worth of food?
Yeah, 4 or 5 days is enough. I mean, it's heavy. You know, you got to.
Would you eat breakfast?
I did, yeah.
Every morning? Or did
you
just?
You know, as developing my my menu or my food intake was a process. I started out not very good at it, and had to kind of figure out my diet. I lost a lot of weight in the beginning because I wasn't eating right, or eating enough, or eating the right
What were you eating in the beginning?
Oh, I can't even remember now, but
like granola bars? Or?
Yeah, stuff like that, I guess. And I might have even tried to carry oatmeal or something, you know. But ramen noodles, instant mashed potatoes, summer sausage, stuff like that.
In the little packets?
Yeah, you know the summer sausages you can buy a little small. Mm-hmm. Slice that up, some instant mashed potatoes, and it's pretty good. But
well, you put some water in it and stir it up, and then put it all in there, and it works. Yeah.
But then I for breakfast, I eventually developed like what I like to eat was you know those instant breakfast meals that you get, Carnation instant breakfast meal, different flavors.
Yeah.
And then I would heat water and then put one of those in, make it like a hot drink.
Yeah.
And then mix granola in it, and that made it a nice breakfast
Or
cereal.
even oatmeal, maybe put some dry
Yeah, I
oatmeal.
didn't care for oatmeal. You have to clean your pot, and it's messy and takes a while to cook. Because you get up and you're ready to go pretty quick.
So
So like you say, like you were talking about, usually daylight, the birds wake you up mainly in the summer. They're so loud. But you get going as quick as you can, so you don't really want to sit around and eat breakfast. Because you got to make miles. And,
So when you got up, you had to heat. How about
heat some
coffee?
water, make some coffee.
You'd have to have coffee, right?
Yeah, instant coffee.
Could you make it without food, but not without coffee?
No, I needed to force myself to eat because I lost a lot of weight initially, and it wasn't good for me. I probably lost 30 pounds in the first month.
God, just walking.
Walking.
Walking and having trouble eating the right stuff.
Yeah, I wasn't eating the right stuff. And then you burn, on average, 5,000 up to 7,000, 8,000 calories a day.
A day?
Yeah. So your intake needs to be, you can't carry that much food, really. So you got to carry things that are higher in protein,
Like what?
beans, if you can. But I eventually evolved to eating these dehydrated meals a lot, in a pouch, because you don't mess up your pot. You just boil water, put it in, let it sit for 8-10 minutes.
You eat right out of the packet?
Yeah. And then it's just garbage to put in your little garbage bag. So you're not having I never really got, after I hiked a while, I never did cook much in my pot. But yeah, protein's a hard thing. But the main thing is when you get to town is to eat a lot.
Oh.
Yeah.
When you're finally getting to that town and you have a map, right? Or you just follow the white dots?
I had a data book.
And you followed the white markings?
The white blazes, yeah. But I had a good data book. Yeah. Former thru hiker had developed it. And it pretty much lists where the water sources were, the shelters were, the towns. And then the towns, it listed what services were available in town, what grocery stores, what hotels catered to hikers, hostels.
When you're coming off that trail and you're seeing the town.
Well, generally you don't see a town. Sometimes you go into a town. But generally you'll cross a road and the town will be down. For instance, like the first road crossing you come to is like day 3, Neal's Gap. It's above Blairsville. And you can either go to Blairsville. Yeah, you can go to Blairsville that way. So
you're going from Ellijay to Blairsville. You're kind of going.
Yeah, over to Hiwassee is the next trail town. But it's a long way to Blairsville. What I'm saying is, you can't see the town. You got to catch a ride or get somebody to come pick you up.
So what did you do that first?
At the first stop, I don't know if you've ever been to Neal's Gap. It's up in the mountains. You ride bikes. I think they did a lot of the tour to Georgia up in these mountains up in there. Didn't they have a lot of that up toward Brasstown?
They did, yeah, and it goes through several.
Yeah, big. Yeah. So there's an old stone outfitter up there. You may have seen it. It's right on the trail.
I haven't seen it.
It was built by the CCCs. But it's an outfit store, and they have resupply stuff, food for hikers.
So when you got to that first place, you flagged a ride to that?
No, there's some cottages down below it. And I rented a cottage with 2 other hikers.
Had you just met those hikers?
Yeah, because I was going to tell you the first day was pretty decent weather, and I walked the 8 miles to that shelter, Hawk Mountain Shelter, and then about 3 o'clock in the morning, the sky broke loose. It was just terrible, hard rain, right, pouring.
Yeah.
So I laid in my tent. And, I just didn't want to get up and start packing, because you have to get out and pack your tent up. Wet tent, that makes it heavy too.
Yeah.
But I couldn't avoid it. It wasn't going to quit raining, so I got up, and it didn't stop raining.
Why didn't you just
it
stay
didn't stop raining for the next 3 days.
Why didn't you just stay there in the tent?
Well,
You'd eat up all your food, wouldn't you?
That, and I didn't figure out. I figured I had a long way to go, and I didn't want to make 0 miles my first day, you know, second
So
day.
you get out and pack while it's literally raining.
Literally raining, yeah. So I didn't go far that day. I went about 6 miles or 8 miles and said, this is enough. Got to another shelter. And then I got there maybe in the afternoon. And,
Do you like make a
but
fire?
it didn't quit raining until I got to the Neal's Gap. For 3 days, it didn't quit raining. It was just so dried out there at the cottages.
You get to wash your clothes at the
Yeah,
cottages?
they had a laundry.
Do you have to take money with you?
Yeah, I carried some money and a debit card. Yeah.
What would you say you spent? Like,
Not much, you know. Actually, less than when I was at home.
like
Just food.
$10,000?
Food.
Or
For
$5,000?
total cost. People have averaged it. What would it cost? You know, I've heard different numbers: 5,000, 6,000, or something. Because you will stay in motels and you will buy food. I always tried to get a room in a town if I could, but I stayed in a lot of hostels too. There's a lot of support network as you go up the AT in towns with hostels, and which I didn't even think about hostels in America, right?
No, they didn't
They're
think
just basically
Yeah.
bunkhouses,
Yeah.
and they're real cheap. They catered to hikers, and they could be $15 for a night, you know. But they usually had a laundromat or a washing machine or
Take a shower.
shower.
Yeah. They could charge $50
That's all.
for
That's
the
your.
shower.
That's what it boils down to. The basics of do some laundry, get some food, take a shower, and then you're ready to go again. Right? That's all you really need in life, right?
You know, that's what it would, you know, you talk about that with enthusiasm. We could live like that now.
Yeah.
But we have all this
Stuff.
and it drives me insane.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that was the beauty of it, is you learn what you really need to live as you go along. How little, you know.
Have you ever studied that Maslow's hierarchy
Yeah.
of
Shelter.
food, shelter, clothing, and that goes on up the ladder?
Yeah, until you get to, social contact or something on the top.
Yeah, and then you start actually
Do another.
reversing or something.
But, it broke it down to basics.
Yeah.
And that's what was the beauty of it. And I don't know if that would ever leave your life after doing it. So I said I hiked when I was 62. I started my hike when I was 62 years old, which is kind of late in life in some ways, because there's mostly young people, or there was a variety of people who hiked the Appalachian Trail. A large group of young people before maybe they just got out of college, or they're getting ready to start their life, or had a bad relationship or something, and they have the time to do it. Right?
Yeah.
Because you have to take 6 months off. Now you probably couldn't do it. Right?
You couldn't do it.
Unless you
You
get
couldn't
shut
do
down.
it in your 30s, 40s, or 50s. I don't think.
If you had a career, yeah. I met a few people who had some stuff, tragedies or something in their life, or some kind of significant event that they wanted to just get away and reboot. But by and large, it was young people, and then a few smaller group of older people. So I was 62, and I finished when I was 63. But I did some more hikes between 62 and 64. I did a couple other longer hikes too, as well, after I finished the AT.
Would you ever think about doing the Appalachian Trail again?
I'd love to. My wife probably wouldn't let me leave for 6 months. It was hard on her. And physically, in your mind when you get old, you like to think you could do what you can do when you're young, but your body, you got to realize, it took a lot of balance and a lot of, I don't think I have the physical fitness to do it.
When you
I'd
got,
like to think I did, but
and you might. I mean, you
there was a
look
guy did it this year. He set the new record for age, 83. But he'd hiked. He's one of those guys who'd hiked the AT or some trail, and it became their lifestyle. He just didn't quit hiking. So and that happens too. You like it so much, or it becomes addictive. The lifestyle.
Is it more the life? You think it's the lifestyle that becomes the most addictive?
Yes, I think so. Because it's such a simple. About all I had to worry about each day was about the biggest decision I had to make was when I was going to quit or how far I was going to hike. Or I might try to set a destination, but if I didn't feel like I could make it, so I really didn't have a lot of decision making to make.
When you're sitting there in the morning and you get up and you've put your tent up and everything, and you're going to heat up some oatmeal or something, fix some coffee.
Yeah.
Do you carry the coffee cup with you as you're walking?
Yeah, as you pack up and kind of sit it down, do a little more. Especially in the beginning, it was cold. Cold weather.
Yeah, we forgot about cold weather.
Cold, and I have to put my hands in my pocket here. Because from March 15th till April, it was pretty bad weather. It was cold in the mountains. I got caught in a couple of snowstorms.
It's like 10 degrees cooler, right? Or 15?
Yeah, I got caught in a couple of snowstorms, and the Smokies were absolutely miserable for me. It was like sideways sleet. I got there probably late March in the Smokies.
And windy.
And windy. And no views. It wasn't, it was just head down, try to stay warm and dry, which you couldn't.
And when you got to a place where you could camp, there wasn't any heating up until you got in the sleeping bag, I guess, right?
Sleeping bag, yeah. So you always keep something dry to put on. Dry pair of socks, dry pants, shirt. And then you get in the sleeping bag, it's no better place to be. I mean, it's just toasty.
Do you have the fire going outside?
No. A lot of people didn't build fires. They're too tired. Maybe if they were like a weekend hiker or a day hiker or a section hiker or an overnight person, they might build a fire and sit around it. But a through hiker, generally they didn't. I only remember about one fire that I built with some other through hikers, and that was up in Maine. I don't even know why we built it, to be honest with you. But,
so I have these visions of you stopping, getting firewood, making coffee,
camping out.
But that's not what it's about.
No, it's walking. So getting up in the morning and walking till about. And talking about, you were asking me about, takes a while. It doesn't take long to set up. I could set up my tent, and I set it up a lot in the dusk. I'd walk all the way to the end of the day. But I'd try to leave myself enough time to set up my tent and cook something. But
how long was that? Like 30 minutes?
I could get it done in 30 minutes. And go down to the stream and get some water, fresh water.
So you
30, 45 minutes is all I need, and I could do it with a headlamp too. But it just depends, if you want to put in a full day. My pace is about two miles to an hour. That I could set my clock, I mean, I didn't even need a map. I'd say if I'm going to go 8 miles, it's 4 hours, That's up and down, taking breaks.
So the average was pretty close.
I was right on 2 miles an hour. So in the summer, when it's daylight a long time, from say 7 in the morning till 8 at night, that's how many hours? 13 hours. You could put in a lot of miles.
Do you stop and eat lunch? Do you say, hey, it's time?
All that's factored into the 2 miles an hour.
Did you say, okay, I'm going to get a granola bar out here and eat while I'm walking, or did you say, okay, time for lunch, let's stop, Did you cook a hot meal, or was it more just a...
Generally, I ate lunch. And then it could be something like what I mentioned, the mashed potatoes with something in it, tuna in it, or, you get those tuna powder. Or it could be as little as like a tortilla with, put tuna on it with some mustard on it, or...
A tortilla with mustard?
And tuna.
Oh, yeah.
Roll it up, make like a burrito, I guess.
I've never heard of mustard on tuna.
Or mayonnaise. You put mayonnaise on it, right? On tuna salad. You made
tuna
salad, yeah.
Did you have the packets?
Yeah, you could get them at like a fast food place. You get some condiment packages, some hot sauce or something. Wendy's has really good. No, Chick-fil-A has good condiments.
So they
have actually the Louisiana hot sauce at Chick-fil-A.
So you would get a little bit extra while you're there.
Yeah. But I generally try to eat during the day. Yeah, take a break and use it as shelter. And and talk to people. You'd usually see somebody there at a shelter, somebody else. Not always, but
Was it discussions like kumbaya, or was it just where you going, where you been, look out for that bear, see y'all later?
depends who you're talking to. If it's another thru hiker, you kind of speak in a different language, or if it's somebody up there with their son and daughter for a day hike or something, it's just the conversation would be different. But if it's another thru hiker, it's if you hadn't met them before, you'd say, what was your start date? Yeah. Everybody was curious.
Are you coming
Everybody
or
started
going
on a different
or?
date? Yeah. You could kind of gauge their pace by their start date. So, like if mine was March 15th, and some guy might say, well, I started April 1st. And he was in the same place as I was. He was moving at a faster pace than I was, right? He started later than me. Or he started before me, and he's just where I'm at. So you could kind of gauge how you were doing. Or first thing you ask them if is there a trail name. Everybody had a trail name.
Everybody has a trail name?
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's just probably a tradition on the.
Why can't yours just be Dean?
I never knew anybody's name, another thru hiker's full name, until the end. And then I was on Facebook a while, and some of my fellow hikers were on there, and it was funny to see their real name, because I knew them as like Impact or Big Ups or.
Why would they do that? Why would they have?
It's just a tradition. I had a trail name. Everybody had a trail name.
What was your trail name?
Right Here.
Right Here?
Yeah.
Where'd you get that?
Well, I kind of adopted mine. There's two ways to get a trail name. You can either pick one, I guess, you want to use, or someone will give you a trail name because something you do.
Like dumbass?
Yeah. Or I gave a guy his trail name in Hiawassee, Georgia. We were sitting in a hospital having breakfast, getting ready to have breakfast, and the guy that owned the hospital passed a book around. He said, put your trail name down in it. And he didn't have one. So I looked at him. He liked to hit. I got to know him for the first week. I met him first day on the trail. He was from West Virginia. He was a big guy. And I know he liked to eat, so I said, just put down Time to Eat. So that became his trail name, Time to Eat. So it's something like that with the... So everybody, but I adopted my own trail name because I went, it was kind of somewhat of a philosophical reminder of be right here, right now, in the moment, so forth, kind of a little deep. I meant maybe a little deep, but some guy asked me at a gas station near Fontana. I told him my trail name, another hiker. He said, are you a Buddhist or what? I said, Right Here. But no, that was, I knew everybody by their trail name. It's just some of them were funny. I met a guy in Virginia. I said, what's your trail name? And he said, Eastwood. Then I did a double take, and he looked just like Clint Eastwood. I swear to goodness. So you knew how he got it. I said, I know how you got your trail name. Then I met a guy one day on the trail, and I said, he was from Boston. He said, I said, what's your trail name? And he said, Solo. And I said, yeah, I am too. Because I was hiking by myself too.
If you had to hike with somebody, would they drive you crazy after a month?
Maybe. There were some couples, women couples, and there were women couples. Women like to hike with other women because they're a little leery about camping by themselves.
Yeah.
So generally they hiked together a lot. And then there were some young couples, men, women. And there was actually a family, a really unique family I met, hiking with their two kids. They were from Maine, and they had like a 5-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Were they hiking? Were they through hikers?
Yeah, they were through hikers.
Golly.
Yeah, and I met them probably, I think in Vermont. No, I met them before then. I met them in Connecticut. Yeah, even maybe before then. And I saw them almost off and on to the end.
You mean you just
kind of, you never really hike with anybody except unless you're a couple or because everybody's pace is different. My pace would be different than yours.
And it
When
may
you
be
and I went out here and walked.
different
You might be
days.
a fast walker.
I might have stayed at the hostel 2 nights and you stayed once. It'd make a big difference, right?
Or you might be there when I get there.
Yeah.
And take off, and I might not see you again till a month later.
Yeah.
Somewhere. The first day I started, there was a guy from Iowa. There's a little log book at Springer Mountain. You sign your name, and I met him at the parking lot. The parking lot's 9/10 of a mile from the Springer Mountain. You walk from the parking lot out and sign your name, and then walk back to the parking lot, and then head up the trail. But anyway, he said, I forgot to sign I said, I'm going out there. What's your name? But anyway, that's the last I saw him. That first night we camped together, 8 Mile Hawk Mountain Shelter. I never saw him again. Then one day in Connecticut, maybe 3 months later, I was crossing a stream, and I looked over and he was getting water. I hadn't seen him for 3 months. So it's kind of funny that way, yeah.
Well,
And he finished
that next morning when y'all stayed in the shelter together,
in the rain.
did he leave?
Yeah, he took off, and he had a very fast pace. But he was by himself pretty much. And he was a young guy. He had a real fast pace.
Why wouldn't he say, hey, I'll wait on you here a minute?
Because we weren't hiking together. You hike your own pace.
Is it sort of
There was nobody. I think I met one guy who had a pace about like mine out of the whole trail. We pretty much could walk together. They were either slower or faster. I hiked for a month with a guy from Minnesota, but he was faster than me, so we would sleep together generally in the same camping area.
he'd just get there a little bit before you?
Yeah, he was always there eating lunch or something when I got there, getting ready to take off,
Yeah.
you know. Or he would be at the campsite. We would kind of talk about where we're going to camp that night.
Do they leave notes?
Yeah, there's in the shelters, there's these spiral notebooks, and people will write a note, you know. Right here was here having lunch, and or other people you know, and you could tell if they were 2 days ahead of you.
They say, Fred, I was here on the 13th at 3 o'clock.
Having lunch, and give a privy report. Privy's clean or it's messy or whatever, you know.
What would it matter? Have you seen some of those bathrooms, those privies that were so dirty you'd just soon not use it?
Yeah, some of them got full. But they're maintained by trail clubs, you know, so it's kind of a hard job. They're basically pit outhouses, you know. Till it fills up, they'll dig another pit, fill that up, and move the structure over on top of the pit.
Oh, it is a seat in the door, right?
Yeah, sometimes not even the door. It's three-sided. Usually it's a swinging door.
Keep your ears open when you're using those, I
It's
guess.
a seat like if you've ever been to an outhouse at your grandmother's house or something, I don't know. But those are nice to have because I hiked other trails that didn't have them, you know. Then you got to go in the woods and stuff. So
Did you have when you took instant potatoes, was there a brand that you say, man, this is better
No,
than
just, I guess Idaho. You see them in the store.
Did you just set that in the water?
You know what? Down south, particularly, I resupplied a lot at Dollar General stores. So whatever Dollar General stores had.
So these full packets. So would you put that in the water?
No, it's a powder. And usually, if it's a big bag, I wouldn't even carry the whole bag because everything's about weight. So I would put the powder in a Ziploc bag. So you boil your water, turn the water off, drop your mashed potatoes in the water, and it's pretty much mashed potatoes. I don't know. I'm not much of a cook.
Stir it up.
Yeah, I've got my pot and my stove here if you'd like to see
Let's
it.
take 5 and empty that out. Besides a change of dry clothes,
Yeah.
this was it?
This was it, except clothing. And more than one, I carry 3 pair of socks. So I like to keep a dry pair. to sleep in. And I carried a couple T-shirts.
So the dry pair of socks you would,
Yeah,
in other words, you only slept in the socks.
dry socks.
Yeah. The same pair.
If it was raining for 3 days, then you wore wet socks and wet boots. And there's just no way about it. You get up in the morning, but if it quit raining, I like to have I always carried 3 pair. That's kind of a luxury. You could get by with 2 pair of socks, you know. So the less weight you carry, the better off you are.
So
obviously.
So then you took what, 2 pair of pants? 3?
I took a pair of long pants and a pair of shorts.
The kind you zip up they didn't
No,
have
just
those
hiking pants. I don't like the ones you zip. They kind of rub my legs around. And I just didn't shorts, especially in summer.
What about a coat or jacket?
Okay, maybe a fleece, and then a coat. You layer. In the winter, my clothing was different when I started in March as opposed to summer. I mailed stuff home in Pearisburg, Virginia, when it got warm. That was a good place because it warmed up, and I had more clothing in the winter because it was cold.
Did you have to say, "Do I really want to mail this home"?
No, I didn't want to carry the weight.
But you knew that the winter was over.
And I didn't get any of my winter clothing back, even though it gets cold in New Hampshire and Maine in August. I didn't get any of my winter clothing back. I had a winter sleeping bag. I started out with a 0-degree bag, but I finished with this bag here, which is about a 20-degree bag.
So if it's 20 degrees outside,
yeah,
are you warm in here?
That's what it's rated.
Are you warm?
But you know, that rating's kind of false. It's usually 5 or 10 degrees. You really start to get uncomfortable around 25 or 30 degrees in this bag.
In other words, you're not going to die at 20 degrees.
No, this is a summer bag. That's why it's so light and small. But a winter bag is a little bigger. It had more down in it, more loft.
Heavier, obviously.
Down to 0 degrees, yeah, a little heavier because you want to get rid of the weight. Right?
So then you had your. How long does it take to? This is the air mattress.
Air mattress.
And this is obviously this is not heavy, but you carry it for 8 or 10 miles. I guess it's significant, right?
Every ounce counts. It's 1 pound. I can tell you what that is. That's 1 pound.
So was this worth the carry?
Yes, because it insulates you from the cold ground. Like I said, I didn't sleep in the shelters.
How long did it take to blow this up?
Oh, a minute or 2.
That tear you out?
Yeah, you got to be careful. Don't hyperventilate, right? Especially in the higher elevations. Like I hiked the Colorado Trail when I was 66, from Denver to Durango, and I stayed above 12,000 feet, 13,000 feet, 12,000, 13,000 feet for weeks at a time, and there's not much oxygen. It can make you sick out there. I don't know if you've ever been to Colorado in the high elevation.
No, but I've been in some higher elevations, and I never have really noticed anything.
But on the AT, no, you don't.
So the oxygen level is
significantly higher at low at 12,000. It makes some people sick, nauseated.
It takes you more breaths in to get the same amount of oxygen.
Yeah, you have to
so when you blow on this, does it?
But on the AT, this wasn't hard to blow up. There was, only highest elevation on the AT, 6,000 feet. A couple of times.
Now, when you blow this up, does it have that valve where the air won't come back out?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you.
And there's a valve on one end for blowing in, and a valve on the other end. You pop it to let the air out.
So at night you gotta squeeze all the air out.
This one really packs well. You can pack it once you start on the end, you pop the valve, and you start on the end, on your head end, and roll it toward the outlet. Mm-hmm. By the time you get there, all the air is out of it. It's not hard. It takes a couple minutes.
Now the tent, how wide is it?
This here tent, this is considered a 2-person tent.
Like this?
Yes. It has one door on the front. This particular tent. Now there's a million different kinds of tents. Right?
Zipper
in the tent, and then I have a footprint to go under on the ground, on the dirt. Then you put your tent, and then there's a rain fly to put over it to keep the rain out.
How long does it take you to set that up?
Oh, I can easily set it up in 5 minutes.
In that 45 minutes you're talking about, you can have all this set up.
I've done it many a time in the dark, and I've done it in the rain, and I've done it in...
Now the tent, the two people, I guess that's a very
You would really... me and my wife have slept in it, on the car camped in it, but it's crowded.
Is it this wide?
Oh no, it's big enough for me. It's 72. I'm 6'2", so it's
But I
probably
mean,
74 inches. Maybe.
Long.
Yeah.
But how about wide?
Wide, maybe this table.
So one person here and one person there.
Yeah,
That's
you're right.
about it.
But you may not be as wide as this table. But as me and my wife have slept in it, but you wouldn't want to do it for very long, for many nights. You know, it's just enough room. I could get all my stuff in, lay it out, and my clothes, and it became my home inside.
Did you feel comfortable in there and secure?
Yeah. It was just I loved my tent. I felt like it was my home.
Any light in there?
I carry a headlamp, you know, you put on your head.
That you
can hang it from the...
That you recharge in the hostel or whatever?
Well, they run on batteries, the headlamp. And then, yeah, so the tent probably weighs, I'm thinking 3 pounds. This particular tent. There's a million different tents, a million different backpacks, a million different sleeping bags. And, you know, you kind of try to get, the lighter you can get, a lot easier it is. The more weight you got on the back, the more miserable you are. Because it just it wears you down. I mean, it's just...
Now in the mornings, see, this is the stove you're going to cook on.
Yeah, you screw this into the butane stove.
How long does this last?
Enough to 3 or 4 days to cook heat meals in the morning and the evening, and then maybe even longer than that.
Well, if you ever been out there and said, man, I haven't got to that town yet, and this is out?
I've never ran out. I've felt close. You can kind of feel them and shake them, and they start to feel light. But then, yeah, you cut back on your cooking. Yeah, you don't.
And you heat, and this is the water?
Yeah, that's my pot, and generally I just use it to boil water. You know. See, this screws on top of here, and then I would eat out of this here, or out of the pouch, or whatever.
So sometimes you just put the pouch in here and let it heat the pouch, right?
No, those dehydrated meals, you boil your water and pull the water in, and then you have to wait 8 or 10 minutes. And they have some delicious meals now. It's become like a cottage industry. There's all kinds of variety, like Thai food and
macaroni and cheese.
Oh yeah, lasagna, you name it. I mean, chicken and dumplings.
What about you couldn't take a Army MRI or
could.
MRE?
Yeah, those are dehydrated meals, but they're heavier than...
Were you in any of the wars?
No, I wasn't. I came in late, and I guess, well, I was in southern Turkey during the first Gulf War. I don't know if that counts. It didn't last long enough to...
Are you related to
And then I went to Grenada for the operation in Grenada. Remember that, when Reagan was...
I remember that song somebody sung about Grenada. That's all I remember.
There was an operation in Grenada where they went to rescue some, theoretically, or that was the reason for going down there, to rescue some medical students.
Can you hear him good, Gwen?
During the Reagan administration.
Do you think, are you related to any of the Fletchers here, like Fletcher Park?
No.
No relation?
No, my dad came here from North Carolina to open up Bowaters when they built Bowater. He was one of the first employees. He was one of the first employees at Bowater.
What was his job?
He was an electrician. So he probably came in 1952, around then. I don't know when they built Bowater.
What part of North Carolina?
Canton, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
You smell the paper mill there?
Yeah.
Well, he worked in the paper mill there after World War II. He was in World War II. Came back, learned electric, and they came over. Bowaters came over there and recruited some people when they were starting this mill up. They wanted some people who worked in paper mills.
Yeah.
They went everywhere to get them. They went to Canada and South Carolina and different paper mills and offered them money to move over here. So my dad came over when they built Bowater in '52, I reckon.
Now, you were telling me when we was offline, this was your journal.
Yeah, I kept an online journal, and my dad published it when I came back.
So
I
it's
didn't really
Dean right here Fletcher.
Correct.
So
And,
that was nice of him to do
If
that.
you look at the last page, you'll see me at Mount Katahdin, and you'll see my picture.
Was this on the Appalachian? This
Yes.
was that at the end of?
No, that's real early on. That's Hog Pen
Oh.
Gap in Georgia, I think.
You carried 2 sticks.
Yes.
Was that important?
Trekking poles, yeah. Yeah, they really help you with balance. Instead of a 2-legged person, you become a 4-legged person.
I can't imagine that helping much.
Oh, it does, your balance. It saved me from falling. It didn't stop me from falling a lot, but I fell a lot. But it saved me from falling twice as many.
So you wouldn't leave without those poles.
No, like I was saying, instead of a 2-legged person, you become a 4-legged person.
Does it take a little weight off too? A little
Yeah,
bit
especially
slightly?
downhill. Takes the weight off your knees. And the ground is so unstable, generally on the Appalachian Trail, you lose your balance a lot. And it helps you catch your balance. Sometimes you can catch your balance with the pole and not fall.
Does this, if I read through this, does it give accounts? Like I'm
I did a
freezing?
daily entry for 168 days.
I'm going to read this.
Yeah, you can have that.
I really appreciate this.
But
I'm going to read one a day at
Okay.
night before I go to
now
bed.
it's not
No, it's on the fly.
Pulitzer Prize.
No, it's on the fly, right?
No, it's like some days I was too tired to write anything, you know. The reason I kept it was my dad was 90 years old. He lived here in Cleveland. And he thought this was the craziest idea he'd ever heard. Me, 62-year-old man, going out hiking for 6 months. So I did this journal so he could sit at his computer and see where I was at and not worry about me.
Like email it or something.
He could look every morning if I could do it every morning. Now, I didn't have cell service sometimes for 3 days, right?
But he could keep up with your
yeah,
travels.
where I was at. And so, but the days I didn't have cell service and I couldn't post them, he would get real worried about if I was hurt or something. But that's the why I did it. In the meantime, he wrote books about his life and self-published, and he wanted to do this.
Well, this is a good job. I mean, it looks good.
Yeah, I did an entry, and a picture every day too. And
Do you sell many of these?
No, I don't try to.
No.
My dad used.
Is that your tent?
That's my
That's
tent.
this tent.
Yeah. And it tells where I'm at and how many miles I hiked that day. And so if you want to look at it free without the book, you don't have to.
Yeah.
It's trailjournals.com.
Trailjournals.com.
Yeah, and the people keep journals from all different kinds of trails. You name a trail, Pacific Crest Trail, Continental Divide Trail, whatever. Trails all throughout the world. They post their journal on that trail site, on that website.
I'd say some people, if you could make a living doing it, they'd do that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and some people do make a living at it. They'll finish a hike. For instance, this pack. A guy who thru-hiked the Pacific Crest Trail in 2001, he lives in Logan, Utah, started a cottage industry of he sews these packs in his garage.
Mm-hmm.
Him and then these are so popular, I imagine he's very wealthy now.
What did you
order
keep
them
in here?
My phone or food snacks to eat while I'm walking or whatever, you know.
Now what did you hang here?
Oh,
Was this for
I hung
hanging?
my camp shoes here, like Crocs, something similar to Crocs.
What do you mean camp shoes?
Something when I get at the end of the day, take my boots off and put on comfortable, like a pair of Crocs or something.
Oh, I see.
And also up in Maine, there's quite a few, not a lot, but there's quite a few streams and river crossings. Mm-hmm. So I had to take my boots off and then I put those on.
Oh, I see.
But they're just nice. And then at town, when you go to town, you could take your boots off and wear the camp shoes in town.
So I would have never thought of that.
But that was hanging off. Nothing. I really never put anything in here too much. I put everything in my pack.
Now, did you ever walk down you're getting ready to take off and you're walking down the trail and you're going to have one more cup of coffee? So you carry it in that very. How do you eat and then drink your coffee? Because you said you ate.
Yeah, that's too. Well, you can boil enough enough water to do both really in the morning.
So you eat and then you drink your coffee.
I
You
brought
can't
my
do
water filter in there too. I should need to show you my water filter.
You can't do them both at the same time, right? You have to eat and then drink coffee.
Yeah, just something that you have coffee when you wake up, right, at home.
Yeah.
It's just something to wake you up, and then while you're packing, sit it down on a rock and pack a little more, and then get some coffee. Then if you want to sit down and eat, but you're too big a hurt. You know, you just.
Do you ever carry that down the trail and walk like this?
No, it's too.
Because you're going like this.
That, and it's too unstable to be walking. It's not like going to Tinsley Park and walking around or the Greenway. You know, it's very rocky and rooty, especially in New Hampshire and Maine. In the White Mountains, and Maine is very, very rugged. Well, all of it is actually. Pennsylvania.
So you got to kind of walk like this, looking down at it.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose your steps in some places. I mean, it's literally in Pennsylvania, hikers call it Rocksylvania. You have to pick each step. Okay, I'm gonna step here. Next step, I'm gonna put my foot over here. So it's not a lot of. You couldn't drink coffee and do that, and yeah, otherwise you're gonna fall. And
now, what about just regular water? What'd you carry it in? You have a canteen?
No, I used Powerade bottles. You know, you buy at the gas station. You put them down in here.
Oh. One or two?
They hold a liter of water. Depend on the water sources. You look at the trail guide. That's something else you learn, not to carry water not to carry too much. Water's very heavy. It's 2 pounds per liter. So if you look at your trail guide and there's going to be a creek crossing in 4 miles, what's the point in carrying 2 liters of water, you know, when you can filter some water in 4 miles? So cut back on your weight. You just carry enough water to drink. But if it's not going to be for, water source is not going to be for 16 miles, yeah, you might have to carry 2 liters of water.
So do you read this stuff up at night before you go to bed?
Yeah, or while you stop and look and see where's the next water source.
Now, what about at night when you've gotten all that done, you've eaten, you drunk some coffee? Do you read a book?
No, it's bed. It's hiker midnight, as it's commonly referred to as dark. That's when you go to bed. There's nothing. I mean, you're not going to watch TV or watch a movie or ball game.
You can't.
And I had days many days I walked 20 miles, 26 miles, 23 miles. And you're just daggone tired, you know.
And you can't turn your light on to read because your battery's going to go dead and you may need it in 3 days.
Well, I'd use my headlight, but I'd turn my battery on my phone.
But you wouldn't want to carry a book to read anyway,
No. I started out with a Kindle. thought I'd want to read before I went to sleep.
Yeah.
Heck, I was lucky to even write some notes at night before I was just conked out. You know, so it was nice, and I try to camp near a stream or a river, preferably, because it's so nice to sleep by.
Did you ever whenever I've been camping, I always could feel the slight unevenness of the ground, and that drove me insane.
I like to find a level spot, yeah. If you don't find a level spot, you're going to roll into one side of the tent, or you're going to roll, or your feet are
slide down.
Or slide back to the tent. I really spent most of my time looking for a level spot.
Can you pick out a
Which
level?
Is not always doable, but
can you just about now look at a spot and see that spots that's level?
Yeah.
After all those years of.
Yeah, or you take your Powerade bottle and it might be half full of water and use it for a level. Sit it down on the ground and see how kind of. It's you learn. It almost becomes a skill.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And it becomes, you could tell pretty incredibly, you can get packed up, unpacked, and get to walking. And other through hikers, they learn the same skill, and it's just.
Are hikers or backpackers, are they more of a recluse type people? Are they chitty chatty? Or you know, different sports have different personalities. What would you classify the
I'd say different
backpacker?
personalities. Yeah, not very chatty. Really, you're not. You might have a little time before dark, before you go to bed, to sit around and talk to somebody about where you came from, or I'm going to be in Damascus, Virginia in 2 days. You know, that's my plan, or 3 days, or kind of make plans, and I might see you there, or.
You don't ask anybody if they got any extra coffee or nothing. That'd be rude, wouldn't it?
Probably, yeah. I've had people give me food, just because they were getting off the trail and say, "You want this? I have this left over."
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah.
That's acceptable.
Yeah. Especially like somebody's come out for the weekend. They've had too much food.
And you take it, obviously, right?
Yeah, obviously, yeah. So it's equipment becomes. You might start out the first a month talking about your equipment with somebody, sitting around. What are you carrying? What's your pack? What kind of sleeping bag you got? But after that, it becomes pretty focused on get something to eat. Your topic of conversation becomes more food oriented than equipment. Equipment's not going to really get you to Maine because there's so many different types of equipment. But you try to get as light as you can. I saw people. I'm not a light hiker. I usually carry 27, 30 pounds. Leaving town with 3 or 4 days of food. Going into town, I could be down to 20 pounds, eat up all my food. But food's really generally the heaviest, most heavy.
What would they eliminate from this? I mean, this is pretty
They
basic.
don't carry a tent. They might carry a tarp.
What would?
To sleep under. They don't carry a stove. Might not cook.
So a tarp versus this. This is
3 pounds.
This and this is how much?
Probably 4 pounds. So they might carry a tarp, which would be 1 pound, or less. See, I saw people hiking down to carrying 12, 14 pounds, but they weren't as comfortable as I was. They didn't have the sleeping pads to sleep on, or I even carried a pillow, blow-up pillow. Didn't weigh much.
Is the pillow in here? Or is it
No,
separate?
But yeah, it was nice to be comfortable. But to me, they never appeared to be comfortable. Those people, they were like eating dry. They didn't cook. They didn't carry a stove even. Some people, they'd eat dry ramen, or something like that. Dry food, or just packed dry food.
Now, what is all their points to do? I mean, where do you think
the
they're
lighter
going?
it is, the better.
But where are they going in this travel? Is it more of a religious, going for the religious experience, or the personal satisfaction, or the sightseeing?
The goal of doing it, to set a goal for yourself, and then the lifestyle of it it's simplified. For nothing for 6 months, I had nothing to think about but walking. For the first time, I was 62. Before you start school, which in my case is probably when I was 6 years old, that's your childhood. You don't have any responsibility or no decisions to make. Well, at 62, I was in the same situation. I was just walking. I didn't have any. It was just it's simple. For once, nobody was telling me I had a schedule, or I didn't have a schedule, or I wasn't telling myself I had a schedule. That's what I told you. The first day was my only scheduled hike, to hike to that first shelter. After that, it was just, if I saw somewhere I wanted to camp, it was nice. I camped there.
So there's no escaping simplifying life
On doing this.
when in normal life, right?
Yeah, I bet you can. Yeah, if you can. You've seen documentaries about these minimalists, and
I could really get to where they're going.
yeah, where they minimalize.
Yeah, I mean,
You may have seen some of those. Yeah.
So
But
we've got all this stuff that we think we need.
Yeah, you've got. What's in your closet?
I got
15 pair of pants.
Probably, yeah.
You know, do you need 15 pair of pants or
Some people say that having too many clothes in your closet,
a couple T-shirts?
just the decision of making, of trying to decide what to wear actually adds to the stress. Just if we take everything out like that during the day, there's no telling what stresses us out.
Yeah, a lot of stuff that you think you need. Of course, you get back into it in life. You get off the trail, you get back into the, you know, it's not a simple world. It's not the simple world you live in out there.
I bet people in jail, not that jail would be good, but they do have it. They say some people that in jail for a while and get out, they want to go back in.
Yeah.
Because it was.
Yeah, they probably incarcerated, right? They become, what they call it, institutionalized. Yeah.
And they don't have to make decisions anymore.
But I don't know if it's similar. The thing about this, you're out in nature. And there's something eases your mind to be out in nature. I mean, it's been proven, there's something about walking is good for stress relief. There's something about being out in nature is good for stress relief, right?
Yeah.
And being out
Everybody
quiet,
knows
right?
that.
You can get out where you don't hear any sounds. There's nowhere we live in town hardly you can't hear a road sound or some kind of noise, right? Noise pollution. But actually you can get out in the mountains still or other places and
You have to
actually
really
hear silence and it's almost makes a noise of itself, you know. A humming.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. So it's, I like that part. Yeah. So first, it's really, now this is really getting philosophical and deep about a through hike. And like I say, some people make a lifestyle of this. They do. The triple crown of through hiking is the AT in America, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail. Of course, I've just done one of them, but some people do all of them. But because you get addicted to it, the lifestyle. It's just.
You think it's the lifestyle.
You can't go back to the, but I had to go back. Back to my point is, it's almost like a metaphor of life to really get deep about this. You start at Springer Mountain, you learn to walk. Like I told you, the first 30 days I learned to walk. I didn't walk far, but I learned how to walk. I got a new name, and you walk, and then you get your trail legs, and you get in the middle of your life, you know, the summer, you get really going good, 20 miles a day, 25 miles a day, 23 miles, and you really get into it, you get to call it get in good shape. And then toward the end, you start to, like in life, you wear down, and then at the end, it ends, right? So it's almost like a life in a period of condensed. You get a new name, you learn to walk, and you have the summer of your life, you know, then you get to the end, and it ends. And at the end, we all had made it that far, people who I was with. You get in a bubble of through hikers. We slowed up. We didn't want it to end. We stayed in every town in Maine we could stay in. We just kind of drug it out.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but then your body goes through a metamorphosis. Like you start out pretty strong, and the first thing I told you, I lost 30 pounds in probably the first 30 days. First thing your body burns up, burning those calories, is your fat. And then after that, when you've run out of fat to burn, it starts to burn up your muscles. And you get real flabby, and I mean, it just burns up. It needs energy, and you can't resupply it enough. And then, so at the end, you're really spent physically, and it affects your mental state too. Like Maine, there's 281 miles of the Appalachian Trail in Maine. It's all hard, and it's almost like it was like a dream state to me, you know, because my body was spent. It was like, you know, you hear people go out in the desert or somewhere and fast for a certain period of time, and they hallucinate or whatever, you know. But I wasn't. It definitely affected my mental state, and my body was spent. And one guy did he took pictures of himself every day, did a through hike, did a portrait of how he changed to the end. It's amazing. It's amazing what happened to him. His face, he started to look older and older and older, and drawn. And you'll see my picture in the end at the last page. Look at the very last page. You'll see me in Maine. I don't look.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Do you see me?
Right here?
Yeah. So I looked. My wife kept saying I looked really old, but it does take its toll physically on you.
Wonder why that is.
Because you burn up all your resources, your fat.
But
muscle.
were you?
I probably finished in the 150s pound. I started maybe 190 something. I had to wait.
Is this the first picture?
Yeah, signing at Springer. Yeah.
If you had to get in a fight, would you rather fought that guy or that guy?
The first one, because I fell real bad about 100 miles toward ending and tore my rotator cuff in Maine, and I couldn't even pick up my pack.
But were you a tougher individual here?
Mentally, yeah. Mentally.
But you don't think physically?
Oh, no. Lord, no. I had to have 3 rotator cuff surgery after I hiked the AT. I fell real bad in Maine, about 100 miles from finishing. And it made me physically ill, but I couldn't even pick my pack up because my arm wasn't operating, my rotator cuff. So yeah, I couldn't have beat anybody in a fight.
But I mean, what I'm saying is, you weren't more physically fit? I mean, muscle and.
Well, in some ways.
I mean, were your legs muscular?
Oh yeah. Probably that respect, aerobically, mentally tougher.
Yeah.
Sinewy. I was sinewy, muscular. Probably.
What do you mean sinewy?
What was left was just muscle.
Other than the rotator cuff.
Yeah, I had 3 rotator cuffs. I did both shoulders when I finished.
Other than that,
I didn't have any problems. Now, it's all a crapshoot if you're going to through hike the Appalachian. It's luck. See, I was 62, but I saw a lot of people. They had the desire to make it. They had the dream to make it, but their knee went out, or they got blisters real bad, or that's just luck, or they fell real bad.
Yeah, if you got blisters and it got infected, you'd have a
I
problem.
saw a guy carrying another guy off early in the trail. You know, some people have a hard time getting the right boot.
Yeah.
And I was lucky. I came up with the right boot. Never got a blister. But some people could never. They kept switching footwear the whole way, trying to figure out. They fought blisters the whole way. But then some people's knees gave out, or their ankle, or other things, and they had to get off the trail, and they didn't want to. And it's kind of sad. So I never thought about quitting, but I always knew, especially at the end, that I could fall and hurt myself. And
of course, if you'd had some of those other issues, you might have had to stop.
I would have had to.
Yeah.
I couldn't have continued. In 2019, I went up to Vermont to do the long trail. I was probably 2019. How old was it? 2 years ago. 68. I was going to do the long trail, which starts at the border of Massachusetts and goes to the border of Canada.
How long is it?
It's 172 miles, I think. Yeah, roughly like that. Maybe 200 miles. And I did the first 100 miles, but I went too fast. I didn't follow my own advice. I thought I could still hike like I did when I hiked the AT. And I got an Achilles problem. I had to quit, and I didn't really want to. I kept trying to get back on the trail because you hate to fail at anything. But I physically was going to hurt myself, so I had to quit. Yeah, I would have fallen and hurt myself really bad. It's pretty rugged up in Vermont, and
when you got back, what were your revelations?
probably the ones we just went over. What really do I need? You know, what stuff do I need? You know, shower, do some laundry and some food.
Now,
And shelter. It boils it down to that pyramid you're talking about. And
you know, maybe in today's society, we're not necessarily carrying weight; we're carrying things.
yeah, we're carrying things.
Things.
Yeah.
That become a weight.
And you get rid of that as much as that you can. I mailed stuff home continually for the first 30 days, like the Kindle or clothes. If you weren't using it, the common thing was people would tell you had experience. If you're not using it, mail it home. If you haven't used it in a week, you don't need it, right? And that's very true. So I mailed home stuff everywhere. I've mailed home stuff. Well, my wife came to, she drove to Franklin, North Carolina to see me, and I'd send stuff home with her. She came to Hot Springs, North Carolina to see me. Anywhere she could drive down south.
Yeah.
And the last place she drove to see me was Damascus, Virginia. And then it got too far for her to drive to see me. But then every time I sent stuff home with her, you know, or tried to get as light as I could. But I could only go so light because I wanted my creature comforts. And
so in the beginning, you could have sent all that stuff home, but you didn't know it.
I didn't know it until I realized I wasn't using it or didn't need it. You know, so.
You know, life's like that in a way. We don't need all this pressure. We don't need all this stuff. We don't need all the weight. And we don't need to keep up with somebody else's pace.
Right. Hike your own hike.
Hike your own hike.
Yep.
Go for your own reasons.
Let them hike their own hike. Yep.
Go for your own reasons.
Yep. Set your own goals.
Follow the rules.
And you spend a lot of time with yourself. If you don't like yourself, you know, you talk about, you know, you have a lot of time to think and talk to yourself, and that's
You're talking about a whole week. You probably went a lot of weeks without talking to another soul.
Well, generally you'd run into, the Appalachian Trail is a very crowded trail. Thousands of people per year go out for weekends.
In a week's time, would you see 10 people?
Yeah, something like that. Maybe across, they'd be coming, or they'd be
But
hiking,
it's
or at
just
a shelter.
It's
not a big, long...
It's not stop. It's just
No.
hey, y'all doing fine. It's slick up there.
Now in town, you talk to people. You're shopping and you're doing your laundry and you're staying at a hostel or a hotel with other hikers. Mm-hmm. And that's really the joy. I hiked with people of all walks of life. You know, I hiked with people from England, Belgium, Germany, and then all sorts of people from America, different ages, different backgrounds, everything from lawyers to you name it. They had different walks of life. So that was always interesting to see how they were living their life and what they were up to and what stage of life they were at. But like the guy from Minnesota, he was my age. He may have been a year older than me. We were similar, but he had worked in concrete. He was an engineer in Minneapolis, and civil engineer. And I hiked with him for about a month. But then he was too fast for me. I couldn't keep up with him. The reason I hiked with him was I wanted to pick up after my speed, and I knew he hiked fast, so I wanted to keep my schedule to his. So like I couldn't keep up with him during the day, but I'd get to the same, we'd say it in the morning, this is where we're gonna camp. So there he would be, right, already set up in the evening, you know, because he was fast. But I'd still make the same miles as him. It just, but yeah, back to the philosophical part of it, it was, there's a lot to be said for it. And I try to remind myself of that too. Yeah. But yeah, after that I did when I was 64, I did the John Muir Trail in California, which is 221 miles. It goes from Yosemite to Mount Whitney, or I hiked from Mount Whitney to Yosemite, which is, I couldn't get a permit from Yosemite to Mount Whitney. Just Mount Whitney's the highest mountain in the continental United States. It's 15,000 something feet.
And none of them compared to this, right?
No, they weren't as lengthy.
Yeah, I mean this was the.
That's the longest one. But I wish I'd started younger.
So, Dean, I see this as a lot like life. We start out in the beginning thinking we need more stuff.
Well, you develop that over the years. You don't start that way as a young
No.
baby or as a young child.
Start carrying more stuff.
You start carrying more stuff as you go to school and you go to make a career and have a family. And yeah,
Wife
you carry
wants a
lot
new
of stuff.
car, and
Yeah.
you want a new truck,
Or
and
a 76-inch TV or whatever,
and then as you go, you start realizing. You think about those people that.
It accumulates. Have you tried to move? When's the last time you moved?
Oh,
You probably
I wouldn't want to move. It'd
Yeah.
take forever, and I don't even know what we got.
I recently moved, built a new house, and gosh, I had too much stuff. So I got a dumpster, and I threw away 2 dumpsters full of stuff. I said, if I'm going to ever move again, I'm not moving this stuff. It's like you duplicate yourself, right?
Did doing this Appalachian Trail, did it teach you a lot of that stuff you didn't need? And you wished you'd have gotten rid of all that stuff earlier?
Years ago, yeah.
Now, what about not necessarily stuff, but pressures of, they said that about me, they said that about me, what about this, what about that? And psychological pressures, are they weight too that we didn't need, that you found you didn't need on the Appalachian Trail?
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. The people who do it and the people who along the corridor of the Appalachian Trail are kind of like-minded, but you cannot have 1 ounce of negativism and through hike it, because you can't let that enter your mind. Otherwise, the weather is really bad. It's going to, you just don't think negative about anything, or I haven't bathed for 4 days, but nothing. No negative. I don't remember thinking negatively about anything. You just kind of embrace it.
Back when you were at your regular job, your regular warrior years,
Yeah,
were
I had
you
a lot
more
of
negative?
negativity coming in and I was trying to compare myself to other people, maybe, or try to be somebody, or try to. So I could sit around and say, I've got this, I've got an RV camper, or I've got a bass boat, or I've got.
I'm not successful until I have a bigger house.
Yeah, or I've got a BMW, or I've got instead of.
Or they all like me now.
Yeah.
I can relax. They all agree with me.
I have breakfast with a group of people every morning, and we compare notes. And it's like Facebook. That's what Facebook is. You compare yourself to others people.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not on it. You compare your life to other people's lives, right? So out on the Appalachian Trail, you're not comparing your life to anybody, not even other thru hikers, really, because everybody's doing it differently.
You're not comparing it to anything.
No, it's just yourself.
And they're all doing it for different reasons.
And they're doing it different ways. There's some people don't carry. My hike was to carry a pack from Georgia to Maine, carry all the stuff I needed. Mm-hmm. But some people don't do the hike nowadays. They don't do the hike that way. They will stay in a town. They get a shuttle and they'll carry a day pack, and then the shuttle driver will pick them up at the end of the evening. And they'll go back to the hotel or hostel, right? So it's called. So, but that's fine. They're hiking the trail. My concept was I wanted to carry my pack, which is probably why I had 3 rotator cuff surgeries. But
you wanted to get the full effect.
That was my hike. Okay, but there's people who go southbound instead of northbound.
Yeah, would that have made a difference?
Yeah, in some ways, because you start out a lot healthier and fresher, and you're not spent physically in the hardest part.
I see. You were doing the hardest part at the end.
But you don't have your trail legs, so in some respects, you don't have them.
Maybe it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other.
6 of one, half dozen the other. But the traditional, the majority over the years have hiked it northbound. First guy to hike the Appalachian Trail, through hike it, was a guy named Earl Schaefer in 1948. And he did a northbound hike. And it was after World War II, and he wanted to walk off the war. And he was the first recorded through hiker, Earl Schaefer. He was in Pennsylvania. He did another through hike in his 70s, but he had to have some support at that age. You know, he had people kind of supported and helped him. But yeah, so I don't even know what I was talking about. But
You know, I would often think about that movie Kane. Did you ever watch Kane?
I'm not familiar with it.
Is that the name of it? Was it Kane? Where that guy, Citizen Kane.
Citizen.
Anyway, in the movie, he was always walking. Went from town to town.
Now, I learned to love to walk. I really love to walk.
Do you think there's something that's rhythmic
With
about
the
it?
sticks too. That's rhythmic. You
That's-
become almost like
that's
it's like
almost-
say, a four-legged animal.
It sort of calms you down, sort of.
It's almost like a metronome. Yeah. Oh yeah, just being out in the woods walking calms you down. They've taken mental patients and taken them on hikes, and it just helps them. You know, helps them. Their mental state calms them.
You know, isn't it funny that
Nature's something beautiful about nature.
there's something about it that they hadn't quite figured out why, but they know it does.
Yeah.
But, you know, you'd mentioned earlier some of the people that were going to do the Appalachian Trail because they were wanting to reset their
they had something,
life
a divorce,
for
maybe,
whatever reason.
Somebody had died.
Whatever. Went bankrupt or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You almost think, why don't they just, what helps them to get over that is getting rid of all their stuff, lightening their load, and
being around positive people.
so why can't we just do that here without hiking the Appalachian Trail?
Well,
You see what I'm saying?
You can do it. I think it takes an effort. It's hard to do because you've got a career, right? You can't do it. You deal with people every day, right? You
can't do it.
You've got all kinds of encumbrances and schedules to meet and people to call and
Health insurance. You got to have health insurance.
yeah.
Because
That's why it's good to do it. I did it when I retired.
see, when you got back, you had to have. What if you hadn't had the insurance?
Young people could do it because they didn't have anything to begin with, right? So too much. And an old person, like I'm 62-year-old, not old, but 62 years old, I could do it because I retired and I had an income. So it's almost really hard to do in between.
You just almost can't do it.
Yeah.
Now you could
Could
probably.
you take off 6 months?
I couldn't take off
Are
6
you married,
days.
or-
Yeah,
Your wife would probably have divorce paperwork by the time you got back.
she probably has them, just hadn't signed it.
But my wife knew it was a dream of mine, so she supported it. But I mentioned wanting to go do the Pacific Crest Trail, and she said, "There's just no way you're gonna."
To get this true solitude feeling, does it have to be? What would be the minimum time frame? Is it
That's a good question.
10 days, or is it got to be 2 months? Or
You can get that in the world we live in here. You can get solitude. It can be a few hours to think, you know. You'd probably be shocked how many hours. I mean, you don't have many hours that you don't have contact with somebody.
from about 10:30 at night till 12 o'clock.
Sleeping.
But now, to get this solitude, how long does it take minimum
That's a good
to
question.
get there? I
I've
mean,
thought
it's
about that.
6
how
hours
many
wouldn't get
yeah.
it,
Yeah, or
and a week wouldn't get it.
3 or 4 hours, but I that's one thing I thought about. I thought you were going to ask me about solitude, but I never felt alone on the Appalachian Trail, to be honest with you. And I always had my thoughts, but I could go hours. You know, I could go hours without seeing, and a day or two without seeing. When I hiked the Colorado Trail, it was pretty remote, and I could go 2 or 3 days, a couple of days without speaking. It kind of felt strange to hear your voice, you know.
You mean you just not even talk?
Not see anybody.
No need to talk.
Well, unless you talk to yourself. I talked to myself a lot toward the end on the AT. I got tired, and it kept going uphill, and I kept going up mountains, and it just was a really hard trail, and I just kept saying, okay, look, you've done enough to me. You've tested me enough. you've pounded on me enough for 2,000 miles. Let me rest, you know. Give me some good trail to walk on, where I can just walk instead of have to pick every step. But
so the last 200.
so I talked to myself some toward the end.
So the last 281 miles was kind of uphill.
It's up and down, a lot of mountains, and Maine is, I don't know if you've been to Maine, it's remote, it's not populated, and there's a lot of granite mountains, and they're granite, you know, they're slippery and they're rocky, and the trails have a lot of roots, and it's just up and down, and it's just not steady walking, like walking on a flat surface. You can fall easily. I bet you if I averaged out my falls on the whole AT, I fell 3 or 4 times a day. I mean.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I would have not thought that.
Because you just can't get good footing sometimes, you know.
You could
And especially if it's raining and you get on that granite, it's like a granite countertop. It's like downhill. People complain about going uphill. I never complain about going uphill because, you know, you get out of breath and it's hard, but I never fell much going uphill, but I fell a ton going downhill. Legs going out from under me, so.
You could sprain an ankle real
Easily, yeah. That's what puts a lot of people physical things off the trail. And then some people get lonely. Then they get homesick. Those are other reasons to quit. Yeah, there are some loneliness. You get into Virginia. There's 500 miles of the Appalachian Trail in Virginia. It takes a month to get through Virginia, and they call it the Virginia Blues, because you're just walking and walking and walking. You think you're never going to get through Virginia, and some people get off. They just get tired of it. You know.
Like how far is it?
And I was tired of walking at the end.
How far is it through Virginia?
500 miles. There's 500 miles.
So that's how many days?
Like I told you, after I got my
about
trail
5
legs,
weeks?
I was trying to do 100 miles a week, which is 5 days of good walking, going to town, and then heading back out. I take a 0 day. They call it. So you get a. That's another thing. You learn to walk. You get your name. You learn a different language to speak. You take a 0 day or you take a 0 day, which means nothing to you, right?
Yeah. What does that mean?
So like I would camp 6 miles from town, because I know I'd be going into Hiawassee, Georgia. I might camp 6 miles out, and I could get there in 3 hours, 2 miles an hour, right? Get up at 7, I'd be in town by 10. That's called a Nero. I consider it a nearly 0 day, anything under 10 miles.
So in other words,
I could get almost a full day in town.
You were like taking a light day,
yeah.
So you could almost trick yourself into getting nearly a whole day in town.
And then about every 7 days, I'd take a 0 day, just let my legs rest, not halt. Just stay in town.
Oh, yeah.
No miles.
Not on the trail.
Except the grocery store.
Not on the trail. You'd never stay there.
Yeah, just hang out in town, eat, do laundry and resupply, and hang out with other people. But so yeah, I had quite a few zeros.
Do you miss the newspaper?
No, I didn't miss the news at all. I mean, that's 2014. I don't even remember what happened in 20. I'm sure some crisis happened or some.
If you were walking, if the world was filled with.
I forget what happened in 2014, but I missed 6 months of it. It didn't bother me a bit.
If everybody was like the people that are hiking the Appalachian Trail, there wouldn't be any wars or nothing, right?
No, they'd be too tired. They have to go to bed in the evening.
There wouldn't be any racism or nothing. Everybody just be.
It's too tired. And like I say, you have to have a positive attitude. Everybody had a good positive attitude. Nobody said anything negative. The negative people didn't make it. You could tell. They just didn't make it. They would drop out. There was a negative guy I hiked with all the way through the Smokies. His trail name was the Professor. But he was just negative about everything. Negative about the weather. It was cold. Yeah, it was cold and miserable and wet. And, you know, he'd cuss. But, you know, nobody liked to be around him because you just couldn't let that enter your mind because you had to just.
He didn't even know he was being negative, I guess.
No,
right?
it was just his personality. I doubt he made it.
Why is it that being positive makes such a. Why is it that being positive make such a physical difference? You think, how is the way I'm thinking going to
That's
affect
hard to do back in the world we live in, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you turn on the news or the TV.
Oh, yeah, everything's negative. That's the way the news, you watch these
It's
morning
all
shows.
negative. Yeah.
You ever watch these morning shows? They'll have you good news and bad news, good news and bad news. You just got to keep watching. They say, oh, the boy died. And look who won the lottery. And it's all back and forth, and it just keeps you wanting to be engaged in it.
Yeah, and actually, you're seeing more good news than I am on the TV. And
I don't watch any news. I quit watching. I don't watch any news.
Yes, so for positive attitude, yeah.
But why is it that a positive attitude? Do you think that I've often wondered this? I mean, if I've got a positive attitude and you've got a negative attitude, now I'm not talking about just slightly negative. I mean, really negative.
Yeah.
Then, or mine's really positive. We almost are living in two parallel worlds.
Yeah.
Like somebody might say, "Oh, all we got to eat tonight's bologna," and somebody else might say,
God, that's great.
"Man, I got bologna."
Yeah, that's right.
It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, that's the attitude. Makes life a lot better, I think. Yeah.
Do you think it actually changes things physically? Like saying it's raining. Well, it's going to quit around 5 o'clock. That's a positive attitude.
Yeah.
Do you think that maybe that actually makes the rain stop? Because you get to wondering. Because if it's just positive thoughts, and that's all, then it's all BS. Either it actually has an effect or it doesn't.
Or you can think about the beauty of a rainy day, and not think it's a bad thing. I like to walk in the rain. There's something about the woods and the rain and the mist or the fog. It's pretty in its own way, right?
When I'm riding bikes and we get into we can't stop. We just keep rolling and you can't see and you got to go like this and then your eyes get watery and then you go like that and then they fog up but there's something about defying the weather.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, bring it on.
Bring it on, man.
Yeah, it's like the guy.
How windy can you get? I'm going.
It's like the guy in Forrest Gump, and when they go to shrimping, right? He
Exact
gets up
same.
on the mast and he says, "God, if that's all you got,
Yeah.
bring it on, old man." So whatever. But so there's.
And Forrest Gump was always positive.
Yeah. So we could wrap it up. There's a common term. Probably developed probably on the Continental Divide Trail, or one of the trails, of embracing the suck. You heard that philosophy?
No.
So whatever it is, if it's 3 days of rain or sideways sleet, embrace the suck. If that's all it is, bring it on. Because I can do this. So.
Or.
I'm wet. So what?
Find a way to enjoy it.
Yeah, find a way to enjoy it. Yeah. So that's the beauty of a long-distance hike. So I strongly encourage it if you can get the time off to do it.
And it's not a week.
If it becomes your dream, but it's not for everybody because you might be miserable. I saw somebody quit the second day. I told you it started raining at 3 o'clock in the morning. That next day, as I was walking, there was a guy quitting. I said, "Where are you going?" He was on the Forest Service, right? I was crossing the Forest. He said, "This is it. I'm out of here." So he wasn't embracing the suck at all. So, that's. And then the reason I lost a lot of weight is I was just so excited to be out there doing it. I just wasn't paying attention to eating that much.
You didn't know how important it was.
I didn't know how to
make
myself eat.
You have to have carbs if you're going to work out. Carbs.
Yeah, and I would go to a store and look for anything that had the highest amount of calorie.
Yeah.
If a honey bun had 300 calories, I'd look for one that had 800 calories in with frosting on it, which you wouldn't do now, right? You're afraid you're going to have.
Well, when I was cycling, I remember when I first started, a bunch of us got out to Webb's store, and everybody started getting these fancy things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hikers.
Protein squeezes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one guy gets two little Debbies and a canned Coke. And I thought, well, this guy's crazy. He's not going to make it. He got through before anybody did. And I asked him, I said, hey, how did you do that on that? He said, oh, man, you got to have carbs and you got to have sugar to burn the carbs and the sugar. It was an oxymoron.
I couldn't have hiked the Appalachian Trail without Snickers bars, jelly beans, gummy bears, caramels, and honey buns. And then when I got up north, whoopie pies. If you know, they have whoopie pies.
I never heard of that.
Up in
like a moon pie?
It's like devil's food cake with real heavy cream in between.
Did you drink any? Did you when you got back to the towns? Did you drink a Coke?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Coke's good. Yeah, good hamburger. I'll give you an example. What you can. There's a halfway point. The halfway point changes. The mileage changes every year. But
how does the mileage change?
They change the route and do switchbacks. Trail maintenance clubs.
Oh,
the trail's made by each state has trail clubs. Like I'm a member of the Georgia Appalachian Trail Club. I've got 1 mile that I've adopted on the Appalachian Trail from Unicoi Gap down to the road. And Unicoi Gap goes down to Cleveland, Helen, Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland, Georgia.
And the other way you go to, I forget where the other place goes, the other direction, maybe Hiawassee or somewhere. But anyway, I forget what I'm talking about half the time, but the...
the mileage changes. So it means just a little bit as they...
Oh, the mileage changes, yeah. The mileage changes every year. But anyway, the halfway point, I was talking about eating. There's a place called Pine Forest State Park in Pennsylvania, which is the other side of Harpers Ferry, West Virginia, going north. It used, I guess at some time, that was the halfway point, traditionally. So there's a halfway challenge. This is another tradition in the AT. You're supposed to eat a half-gallon of ice cream, right, as fast as you can at this store that's at this park. So it's in my journal, I ate a half-gallon of ice cream in 22 minutes. It said mint chocolate ice cream in 22 minutes.
That's a lot of ice cream.
But it didn't faze me. I went into the store and ordered a hamburger and the fries. You know? So that was a beautiful part. So here I was. You remember when you're young, you can eat anything you want.
Yeah.
In college or high school or college.
Pizza
age.
for breakfast.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Did you worry about cholesterol? So once again, at age 62, I got to revert back to my youth. College. I could eat anything I wanted to. I ate one night I got a pizza in a motel room and ate a whole large pizza, you know.
Wonder what your blood levels were, cholesterol and all that stuff.
Well,
do you have any idea?
Yeah, I did. Before I started, I had high cholesterol. I took a statin to lower my cholesterol. But I didn't take it on the trail. So when I came back, I went to get a physical. My cholesterol was lower than when I was taking my statin to lower my cholesterol.
Blood pressure good and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah, I didn't, my cholesterol dropped. I mean, although I was eating 800 calorie Little Debbie's, a whole pizza and a half gallon of ice cream, you know, so because you burn it, and that was a fun thing. That was a fun thing of doing it, so. That's like an added.
You know, you can't, if you're a person that's retired and you don't have to be around for, you almost gotta do something. Now, maybe it's anything that you have to be away for a while, that you can't have a lot of stuff, that it gotta have a lot of solitude with it. And I guess sailing, sailing's not exercise.
You can do it riding a bike. You burn.
You'd have to, but you don't get you get some solitude, but.
Hiking's definitely a solitude sport if you get up in the mountains, I guess. But it's a crowded world we live in. I've never gone on a trail that there weren't people. The AT's the Smokies are ridiculously crowded, right? So some of those parks, Shenandoah
yeah.
National Park, and
But you could probably go a couple hours without seeing. Even
Oh, yeah,
going,
easily.
even if we were to go a couple hours without seeing anybody, it's a solitude still sort of
and it's
thing.
nice. I
Did
love
you ever
this.
did you ever walk and get to thinking about something that happened years ago, and you get to thinking about it, and it makes you mad, and while you're walking,
Yeah, or sad. I even cried walking sometimes, thinking about stuff, you know.
stuff that
Thinking
came
about
back.
my mother dying or something, you know, and or it being Mother's Day or something, you know, and I'm not home, or so yeah, you think, or sad, or the other, mad. I don't know about getting mad, but I did think about a lot of things, yeah.
You really go through. You'd really have that'd be now being in solitary
So we
confinement.
need to get you to shut down Burris construction, and
They would follow me.
I'd go with you if I could. If I
If
thought
I-
I could make it, I'd go with
If
you.
I did that, there would be people hike the trail and say, "We need you to build. We need you to build some of these shelters."
Shelters, yeah.
They'd be wanting me to do something.
The trail clubs usually build them. That's the Appalachian Trail's maintained by trail clubs in every state. It was conceived. It's all volunteer, and that maintains them pretty much. The Forest Service, most of it goes through Forest Service land, and they help. Like if there's blowdowns but yeah,
Tell me the right here.
we're right here, Dee. We're right here, right?
Is that all that matters?
It's all that matters. There's no place you'd rather be than right here, right?
It's the only place you can be.